apologies for the mess that we had this morning. I guess that's what happens when you have two candidate forums on the same day. You swap the links in all communication. I am sorry I wasted your time, and it is 100% my fault. My apologies. We will go ahead and begin our candidate forum. I hope we can plow through this. We'll cut everything as quickly as we can and move on to the good stuff. Welcoming everyone to the 34th candidate City Council Forum. I'm Carla Rogers, the one who messed up the email, chair of the 34th Democrats. I'll start us off with our land acknowledgement. The 34th Legislative District Democrats acknowledges that we work on unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions and acts only as a first step in honoring the land we are on and their people. Good government is the foundation of equitable and just policies and laws. We seek for our voices to be heard through the actions of the officials we elect at state, national, and local government. Your participation in the democratic process and your votes are crucial to maintaining a strong democracy. The leadership of the 34th want you to have the information you need to make informed decisions when you cast your vote. To that end, we're here today to speak with and listen to candidates running for Seattle City Council at-large positions 8 and 9. These candidates hope to get your vote in the August 3rd primary. I'd like to ask all candidates to rename yourselves and include the position that you're running for. I'd also like to ask the audience to remain on mute throughout the forum. I will also ask for your patience. We've been in contact with the 11th LD chair, who is hosting their endorsements meeting today, so we may have some candidates coming in a little late to the meeting. If they join late, they will have the opportunity to do their opening statement after the question in progress at the time. We have another candidate who will need to leave early. While normally I would push for a smooth, uninterrupted event, the pressures on our candidates to attend events across the district is high, and I want to honor our neighbors. Please hang with us as we try to keep this as smooth as possible. At this time, I'd like to introduce one of our two moderators tonight, King County Conservation District Supervisor and State Party Rep Chris Porter, to share our format. Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, everyone. Hope you all can hear me. The format today is, to begin with, because both positions 8 and 9 are at-large positions, the candidates for both positions being treated as a single panel. And so we would like to ask all candidates to, which she's already asked you to rename yourself, so we've done that. We'll begin with 90-second opening statements for each candidate. We will then begin the question and answer portion of the event, which will begin with one question for the panel. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to this question. That is, if the question is first targeted towards you. Each of the next 8 questions will be asked to specific candidates. The candidate having 90 seconds to respond, which often will be renaming candidates. Okay. Our timekeeper will alert the person who begins with the question that they have a 45-second warning and a 15-second warning and then time. Those that have the 60-second response to the question will get a 30-second warning and 15-second warning, and time is up from the timekeeper. Our timekeeper is Ann Martin. If we're ahead of schedule, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions that people have given us, but we are pretty tight, so we may not be able to get to that. At the end of the question and answer portion, candidates will have 2 minutes each for closing statements. We'll begin by introducing the candidates. Rachel.
Hi, thank you, Chris. I am Rachel Glass. I'm the co-moderator and the first vice chair of the 34th LD Democrats. We'd like to thank all the candidates who have joined us today to introduce themselves to you, our audience. And now, without further ado, let's get started with opening statements from the candidates. And we will be starting with Rebecca Williamson, running for position 9. Rebecca?
I will unmute. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity this morning to address you all. I'm originally born in Kansas City, Kansas. I grew up half here and half there. My parents had a record store. I went to Roosevelt High School and North Seattle Community College, Seattle Central as well. And I began to get involved when the US invaded Afghanistan and we were heading to war. Now it's been perpetual war, and I said something needs to be done. I also had the opportunity to travel to Cuba many times since that time as well, and learned about socialist revolution and how it's possible, have the workers and farmers in power. And we really see this as a class against class society, and to strengthen the hand of the vast majority of workers and farmers, young people, small business people, farm workers. And that's what I'm in here to give a working class voice to
45.
Okay, great. 45 more seconds. Yeah, and the number one thing is jobs that we need. And we already see a little uptick in workers standing up around the country on strike and fighting lockouts and fighting for better working conditions and living conditions. And this is what we need to strengthen to build a fighting labor movement, and actually to fight for a working class party, labor party, that can bring the power of our social weight to bear in all the social questions that we face. You know, from the environment to police brutality to housing and homelessness and all these things. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Council member Teresa Mosqueda, running for position 8.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me back in the 34th. It's wonderful to be here. I appreciate all of the work that you do. So it's just an honor to be here. No worries about the timing. I wanted to say thanks for your past endorsement. I had the privilege of earning the 34th endorsement when I ran for the first time 4 years ago. And here I am running for re-election. With your support, I hope to win office again for the position 8 for Seattle City Council. Folks who know me, who've had the chance to work with me, it's good to see you again. For those who maybe this is a first time introduction, I'm a progressive Democrat. I came into office working from the Washington State Labor Council, AFL-CIO, representing over 500,000 workers, and committed to coming into office to lift up workers' rights, invest in worker protections, and simultaneously make sure that we're investing in small businesses and our local economy, because both go hand in hand. I came in unapologetically determined to do this, and we've done it. We have invested in workers' rights by passing the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which is used as a national blueprint by Congresswoman Jayapal, who's endorsed me, and Vice President Harris. We have passed hotel worker protections and making sure that hotel workers now have guaranteed access to healthcare. And with your support, we led the progressive revenue proposal to pass Jumpstart Seattle progressive revenue, bringing in over $214 million a year by assessing the largest businesses and the largest salaries to pay into things like housing, $135 million a year for housing to address housing and homelessness, our most pressing crisis in the city, to invest in Green New Deal and equitable development priorities. We have done many of these things in advance of COVID, and now with COVID pressing still in our communities, I want to go back into office to work with you to create more housing, more good job opportunities, to address the crisis of homelessness, and make sure our smallest businesses, especially BIPOC and women-owned businesses, have support. I hope to earn yours.
Thank you, Council member Mosqueda. Corey Eichner, running for position 9.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Corey Eichner, and I am running for City Council position 9. As some of you might know, for the last 18 years, I've gone to work every day serving our students and families as a teacher and an administrator in our public schools. I've had the privilege of working with our communities across the region from Shoreline to South King County. As a leader and advocate for our kids, I have fought for reform in our education system to ensure that our students and families furthest from educational justice have the access and opportunities they need to succeed. Today, I'm an administrator right here in Seattle, and I've continued this important work here at home. As I've shared during this campaign, in education, we have to work together to get things done. Even though most of our city government comes from the same ideology, there still seems to be this polarization that stops collaboration and progress from happening. As I talk with our community members across the city, I hear and understand the concerns we all face.
45.
More now than ever, we see and experience the inequities across our region. We've watched the homelessness crisis expand. We face the ongoing concern that our infrastructure can't support access to affordable housing, a comprehensive transit system, or a plan to combat climate change. We shouldn't be in a place where it seems like the challenges we face are unsolvable or that we have a government unable to do it. We need leaders who will advance our progressive ideals in a practical, get things done kind of way. At this pivotal moment, I look forward to working with all of you to lead our city with this sense of immediacy and urgency. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Corey Eichner. Lindsay McAfee, running for position 9.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Lindsay McAfee. Like they said, I'm running for position 9. I am not seeking endorsement through the 34th, but thank you for inviting me anyways. So I grew up in Oregon. I moved here to Seattle about 4 years ago because I fell in love with the city, and I moved here and I was immediately disappointed in what I imagined the city to be wasn't what I was experiencing. I've been homeless up here. I've been through the systems that we have in place, and I've struggled to get through the system. And I think it needs a lot of addressing, and I would like to have the opportunity to be part of that solution instead of just complaining about it. So that's what brought me to decide to run for a position. I am not a politician. I am a worker. I was in the military.
45.
I was in the Oregon National Guard for 12 years. And I work. So I'm not a politician. I don't really, this isn't my arena, and I want to get into it. So thank you again for having me. And I think we need, the things I think we need to fix, I'm sorry, my nerves are getting to me right now, but we need to fix the roads and bridges falling, and or not falling, but being closed down, piers falling into the water. We need to be proactive instead of reactive to these issues. And that's what I would like to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay McAfee. Nikita Oliver, running for position 9.
Good morning. My name is Nikita Oliver. I use they, them pronouns. I am a grassroots organizer, artist, cultural worker, executive director of creative justice, an attorney, and a professor at Seattle University School of Law. I'm running for Seattle City Council because I believe our city needs to respond to the crises that have been in front of us. We've been in a state of emergency around housing affordability and homelessness since 2015. And the solutions are not unknown. And I do not think it is radical to say that we need housing for all, and that we need social affordable housing, and we need electeds that are willing to take hard lines and make that happen. We need short-term strategies that include emergency shelters such as hotels and tiny homes, and long-term strategies that prioritize city-funded social affordable housing and supportive transitional housing. We need a public health and safety strategy that works for everyone. And a huge part of my work as a community organizer, not as a political insider, but from the position of being rooted in community, has been building community-based, community-led public safety systems that work for everyone. And we need to reach our climate goals. We do that by addressing transportation emissions and building green so we can get there by 2030. I am endorsed by UFCW 21, UAW 4121, IUPAT DC 5, the Book Workers, WFC 1488, and IATSE 15. State Rep Johnson, Simmons, Harris Talley, State Senator Saldana, former Councilmember Larry Gossett, and current City Councilmember Tammy Morales. I look forward to partnering with you all in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikita Oliver. Brianna Thomas, running for position 9.
Good morning, 34th. It's so great to be with all of your beautiful West Seattle faces, because we all know West Seattle's the best Seattle, but I'm biased. I just want to take a second to say, Lindsay, we are all nervous, just so you know. Everyone up here is nervous right now. My name is Brianna Thomas. I'm running for Seattle City Council, position 9. That's the whole town. And I am running because I think that the City Council has done good work in moving forward issues around homelessness, around economic inequality, around protecting workers. And I want to continue that legacy, and I want to be part of the team. Government fundamentally is a team sport. You've got to work together, especially in a legislative body. You got to get to 5 to get anything actually done. What I'm bringing to the table is the experience of being at those tables, representing community voices, representing workers, and making sure that we are being thorough in our processes as we pull policy together. Something I've noticed in the last 5 years is whenever council members got a good idea, a progressive idea, a strong idea for our communities, it hits a lawsuit. And so we've had to learn how to bake in a legally defensible strategy on these policies, because when you're standing up for hotel workers, as Councilmember Mosqueda will tell you, you get a lawsuit. When you're fighting for 15, you've got people that are out there trying to stymie those protections for workers. When we're working on transportation infrastructure, we've got to make sure that there is a filter that is racially equitable and works for folks that are differently abled. Working for an entire city means serving the whole city, from the tippy top to the tippy bottom. We've got to make sure that all 700,000 residents are represented, and it's no small task. It's a lot of balancing, but I'm prepared and have been excited about this opportunity.
Thank you, Brianna Thomas. Kate Martin, running for position 8.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, and hello to everyone in the 34th. My name is Kate Martin. I'm challenging Teresa Mosqueda in 8. I think Seattle needs improved government. We've got problems that aren't being solved, and not only are the problems not being solved, but they're not being prevented in the first place. What I bring to the table is intellectual diversity, political diversity, and I also want to bring democracy. In 2013, when we voted for district elections, we didn't have in mind that the 2 at-large positions would actually kind of be at large. We expected them to be kind of performing shuttle diplomacy back to the districts and to the mayor's office and vice versa, but that's not what's happening. Without a debate, without the intellectual diversity that I can bring to the table and my 40 years of planning experience, we're not going to solve the problems, because even what we have is legislation that's kind of activist legislation, but what we really need is problem-solving legislation.
45.
So what I would start out with on every piece of legislation is, what problem are we trying to solve? Who do we have at the table helping us to solve it? What is the way to prevent this problem in the first place? I also find that we're talking a lot about housing affordability, which is super important. I share my house with 8 people. We all live affordably. But what we're forgetting is the 1%. 1% of our population has schizophrenia. That's 1 on every block that needs assisted housing.
15.
3% of the people have bipolar disorder. Half of those will also not be able to work consistently. So let's separate the cruelty of not providing for schizophrenics and bipolar and other people with mental illnesses. Let's separate that just a tad from affordable housing. I'll bring solutions and prevent the problems from happening in the same place. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate Martin. We have next Paul Glumas running for position 8. Paul, are you in?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I'm Paul Glumaz, and I am running for position 8. I am a Mexican American and came to the US when I was 9, and I grew up in Washington, DC in an African American context. Now, it is my view that Seattle's problems largely stem from wrong policies and gross mismanagement led by the current city council. That is why I'm running. Defunding the police is one of those policies. And public safety is always the first priority in any of any responsibilities of city government, and we failed on that. We've also failed in terms of the homeless. The
45.
We spent about $1 billion in the area servicing the homeless. And I'm wondering if we have a homeless industrial complex rather than an attempt to deal with the homeless. Homeless should not be on the streets. They should be in transitional emergency shelters on their way out to various different destinations, whether it be substance abuse, mental health, new places to live, and jobs.
15.
Seattle is about to become a failed city, and that is why I'm running to change that. Okay.
Thank you, Paul Glumas. Sarah Nelson, running for position 9.
Good morning, everybody. Sarah Nelson, position 9. I ask for your support. I lived in Seattle for 30 years. I have 2 teenage sons. I'm a progressive small business owner and a former legislative aide. And I'm running to bring some common sense, practical leadership to City Council. What sets me apart is that not only do I have government experience, I also have experience as a business owner. So I understand how sometimes well-meaning policies have some unintended consequences when they're applied, in the real world. So I'll bring that perspective to City Council that hasn't had a small business owner for a very long time. I'm focused on economic recovery and jobs because we've got to help small businesses who provide 70% of the jobs in the private sector, and also create more opportunities for getting people into the workforce, apprenticeship programs. And there's so much more that the city of Seattle can do on that front. That's why I'm endorsed by the Seattle Building and Construction Trades Council, the Iron Workers. And also I've got a lot of environmental support, Dennis Hayes and other environmental leaders, because I'm a lifelong environmentalist and I want to put the environment back at the top of the city's agenda. One of my focuses is also basic city services, refocusing on that primary responsibility of local government to adequately fund police, fire, parks, libraries, and transportation, with a special focus on infrastructure. So I ask for your support. There's a lot of information on my website, and you can go there to learn about my positions and proposals. Thank you very, very much.
So the next portion of the program, which will be our opening, it will be the questions. We're going to start with a question for everybody. And so everyone will get a chance to answer this question. We're going to start with Paul Glumas, and I will prompt just down the list for so that everyone knows when it's their turn to go. The question is, generally speaking, how would your approach to governance compare to the current council? For Councilmember Mosqueda, what would you continue to do and what would you do differently? And we'll start answers to this question from Paul Glumas.
Would put public safety first, not scapegoat law enforcement. Okay. Law enforcement has a lot of problems. They don't need to be scapegoated. And if you don't put public safety first, you don't have a city. Right now, we're losing the city. Right now, there are crimes escalating, property crimes, drug crimes. And many of the neighborhoods are being taken over by criminal activity, and it needs to be dealt with. And you cannot, and people are leaving the city. 7%, we lost 7% of the population last year. Businesses and people are leaving the city. They're saying, well, Seattle, the government of Seattle is not friendly. The government of Seattle is not friendly to our being able to live here and work here. We have to go. That's the situation. It's a dire situation. And this city council is a disaster.
Sarah Nelson, same question to you.
Well, this is a difficult question. I think that what I would say is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the needs of my constituents first. I'm not going to run legislation from special interests. I'm going to listen to my constituents and then also seek the input of stakeholders when considering the minutia, the details of legislative proposals to make sure that we're crafting effective solutions that will really deliver results, keeping the promise of city government to deliver these basic services and also move the needle on homelessness. You know, it's no secret that we keep spending more money and the problem keeps getting worse. We really have to take a look at what are we doing wrong and stop doing that.
Okay, Rebecca Williamson, same question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we don't have the perspective of winning seats little by little and of changing this or that particular policy. We're in for a revolutionary change and building a movement of millions. And that's going to come through building concrete solidarity today. One thing I failed to mention is I'm actually a worker at Walmart, member of the Socialist Workers Party. And we just completed a collection among coworkers to send to locked out oil refinery workers in St. Paul Park, Minnesota, who are fighting against, around the safety question. The whole strike wave last summer, the packing plants in the Yakima Valley was virtually ignored by the Seattle Times.
45.
Thank you. They had to go to Olympia to get attention. It was eight packing houses, many thousands of workers to get the attention of the government. And the crisis of capitalism is worsening, and working people are bearing the brunt. And it's not this or that policy that's gonna make the big change. If you look at history, it's always been through our
15.
social mobilization. You look at the revolution in the trade unions, 1930s, the fight for Black rights, led by working people and youth, and all the movements that came out of that and stood on the shoulders to fight for gay rights, for women's rights, Native Americans. And that's what we need to turn around. So thank you.
Council member Teresa Mosqueda, same question.
Thank you very much. I came into this office really determined to make progressive change for both workers, small businesses, and some of the issues that have been put on the back burner for far too long, like investing in Green New Deal priorities to address our climate crisis. That's why I have the endorsement of Congresswoman Jayapal and Bob Ferguson, because they know that I'm progressive and I also work to bring people together to good things done. What we've done on council sometimes is, we don't see the sausage making. And when you look at the sausage making in the way that I have made progressive policy done, it's by bringing people together. The Jumpstart Progressive Revenue had large and small businesses at the table, along with our workers and unions, along with environmentalists and housing providers. These broad coalitions is what led to its passage, as well as support for things like domestic workers, which included hiring entities. We haven't passed legislation under my leadership in my committee that has been a one-size-fits-all approach. It's been by working collaboratively with folks to identify tough problems and the solutions to get at the root of those problems. With your support on council again, I'm going to commit to making sure that there's more transparency, more involvement in having a transparent budget process, which we've done a lot in the last year to break down some of the confusion around budget and involve more folks in the inner workings. I'm going to do more to make sure that we keep our promises to voters, our promises on Move Seattle levy, on the Vision Zero commitments, and on Jumpstart spend package. We can keep promises, we can make it more transparent, and we can make sure that we move forward on progressive issues that need our action now. And with your support, I'll commit to continuing to do that in a more transparent way with you at the table.
Corey Eichner, same question.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would approach the city council the same way that I approach my current job. The idea of problem solving with accountability. As an educator, there is no better solution than to invest, in our youth. in politics and in education, we can become paralyzed by process and conversation. In my fight for equity in our public schools the last 18 years, I haven't had the ability to tell our students and families that we'll get to it later, that we will bring them to the table later. We've had to do it now. I'm going to come to the council with that same sense of urgency. Problem solving isn't about one idea or done by one person. I have a track record of working with diverse perspectives to bring about real change and real reform. Anybody who's come to a PTSA meeting, a school board meeting, or been involved in any type of committee in education knows how difficult it is. And it should be, because people should be advocating for their kids and we should be listening to them. As a council member, I'm going to advance or advocate for my beliefs and my own ideals, but at the same time, honor the differences of perspectives of other council members, and the executive. We need to bring those perspectives together to move forward, just as I've done in education, and that's what I'll do as a council member.
Lindsay McCaffey, same question.
So I am a libertarian, and so my approach to government is far different from most. My approach is to let people do what they need to do, get the government out as much as possible. My goal is to get rid of the red tapes, as much as possible that exists for small businesses and for people who need to call 211. There's so much red tape when you call. It takes, there's someone that I've heard of just recently is taking over 3 days for them to get a hold of 211 when they're facing homelessness, and that's not acceptable in my opinion. Having been in that position, not knowing what to do for 3 days is way too long. So I want to get the government out of people's lives as much as possible and as much as makes sense. I think that our government is too involved in our personal lives. And so that would be how my approach would be different.
Nikita Oliver, same question.
Yeah, so I apologize. This will be my last question. I am very deeply rooted in community, as evidenced by having been invited to this NAACP event prior to receiving y'all's invite to the forum. So thank you for having me. I think that particular element, though, shows that I'm able to build broad representation of community members and bring them deeper into city council. Some recommendations I would make: we need radical accessibility at the Seattle City Council. This includes having childcare, later evening meetings for workers to be able to attend them, and also having disability justice be a part of the way that we construct our city council meetings. I recommend a restructure of how we do committees. They need to be more intersectional. We should be talking about environment, development, and jobs all in the same breath, so that we can be building those pipelines into green jobs and having green buildings, as well as having our transportation structure help us meet our climate goals. We need to make the collective bargaining process for the Seattle Police Department transparent and visible for community. That did not happen with the last CBA, and it needs to happen this round. That would be different for the Seattle City Council. And we need to prioritize our budget towards basic needs, prevention, intervention, and housing, and need to fight harder for progressive taxation. We cannot continue to put the burden of city funding upon those who have the least, while those who have the most are not expected to pay their fair share. And then we need to standardize the Race and Social Justice Initiative toolkit so that it is done the same across departments and actually effectively helps us achieve our goals.
Thanks for being with us today, Nikita. Brianna Thomas, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for me, it's a two-part response. One, increased engagement with community. During COVID, we had to innovate in real time, what public comment looked like, what language access looked like, what closed captioning looked like in real time with the Seattle channel. And I think those are changes that have really benefited communities' voices being able to be at the table. You don't have to drive to City Hall if you're a worker in the middle of the day, knowing that bosses are able to get out of work. You don't have to find parking. And so I think that that's been a huge, huge progress in terms of digital equity for access to community in terms of while we're making policy. Secondly, I think we have to take a look at the relationship between the council and the executive. It is not a well-kept secret that there has been tension there. few years. And I think I see some light at the end of the tunnel because we've got so many great candidates running with legislative experience, but not being able to say, I'm not going to engage with an executive because I disagree with their positions. It's just not it's not something council members get to do. We don't set the table. Community sets the table through voting for their representatives. And once you're there, that's who you've got to work with, differences aside. So those are the two big areas I see it that I would take a different path than I'm seeing the current council.
Kate Martin, same question.
Thank you. Definitely reflecting back on what I said earlier, I don't think the intention of these position 8 and 9s is to kind of go off and do your own thing with your own legislation. Sometimes I wonder whether the 8 and 9 positions should just be at large on every committee and not actually have their own committees, so that we have 2 citywide legislators who are, like I said, doing the shuttle diplomacy, understanding the big picture of what's going on in every single committee. I don't think this is what we ever intended the way it's operating right now. And I'm really looking forward to working with the position 9 council member to reform what these roles are. I don't think we've clearly, it's not in the charter clearly defined, but it's definitely not working.
45.
Problem solving, the thing I use a little tech term called scrum, not waterfall. The government is involved in solving these really complex problems with a waterfall system that has so outmoded that there isn't an organization that uses it to solve a complex problem. So I want to move to solutions that work, get rid of the ones that don't, stop funding the ones that don't work, which is something we seem incapable of doing. So brushing away all of the old ideas that aren't working. I want to bring a healthcare system that's just like the one the municipal workers have, but open to anyone that lives or works in Seattle. I want to fund the backpack for students because I agree with all the speakers that said put youth first, not the adults in the room. I look forward to doing that. And I want to just say that in this role, I'm citywide. I'm not going to be my own politician being a mini mayor. So thank you very much for listening to that.
Chris, we'll take the next question.
Thank you, Rachel. So I will begin with Sarah and then follow the list of speakers in the order that Rachel had started with. So the question beginning with Sarah is, which example of systemic and institutional racism do you feel have the most significant impact on communities of color? And how would you address those issues if elected to office? Sarah?
Sarah has 2 minutes.
All right. Well, it's difficult to pick one because systemic racism is a structural problem that seeps into all of our city processes and undercuts opportunity on all fronts. One thing I would say is, I mentioned before that I'm an environmentalist, and environmental justice is something that we need to pay much more attention to. The Enviro movement has been dominated by white guys, and who care about mountains and things. But we've got people who are living close to freeways, close to polluting sources. And I am happy to be. I was endorsed by Washington Conservation Voters last time. The focus on environmental justice and looking at air and water quality within our cities effectively will help the folks that are most marginalized, that are living close to these sources. So that is one area that I wanted to bring up because it's rarely mentioned. The second is, again,
1 minute.
Jobs. Too many people are left out of work. When I was interviewing with the iron workers, I saw a workshop that R3 was conducting to get foster kids and people who have experienced the criminal justice system into an apprenticeship program that will put them on a career path to good, well-paying jobs for the rest of their lives. Now that's one example of something that we should be multiplying
30 seconds.
Tenfold across the city. The city of Seattle has a role to play on this front, and we should be doing a lot more focus on this. And then finally, small business owners owned by women, minorities, and
15.
They've got problems that white business owners like me do not have. And the city can do a lot more to help people who don't speak English, who have just come to this country, get a foothold in Seattle through starting a small business. And I've been working with some of those businesses to figure out ways that we can help them more.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Okay, thank you. There's many ways that racism is perpetuated through the capitalist system. We see it, you know, at the institution, the cops, the courts. You know, there's still quite a bit of last hired, first fired. I'd be for affirmative action with quotas, as we had before. That's been totally twisted and perverted since then. It's
30
not
seconds.
a matter of education and things like that, but even Malcolm X saw it, that it was part of the capitalist system. That's what's perpetuating it. It's through our common struggle that helps to educate
15.
others and win the respect and change the attitudes of broad layers. And that's what I would promote, is building such struggles. Thank you.
Councilmember Mosqueda?
Thank you very much. One of the most pressing issues that I think still embodies institutional racism, explicit covenants that are exclusionary in nature, is our housing code. The code in Seattle, our zoning policy, still doesn't allow multifamily housing in about 75% of our land. And according to the author of oh Lord, I just forgot the name of the book. Okay, I'll come back to that. The Color of Law. Thank you. The Color of Law. The Color of Law writes about how exclusionary policy is one of the only places in statute we still see exclusionary policies specifically designed originally related to race and ethnicity. We have to recognize that our exclusionary policies are pushing people out of this city. We need a residential zoning policy that would allow for multifamily structures so that we can address the historic inequities, the racist roots of our exclusionary policy, to allow for multifamily structures across our city. That's good for workers. Many small businesses have told me they want that so that workers can live in the city they work.
Thank you. Corey?
Wonderful, thank you. I think it's really hard to choose just one particular area, because racism and inequities continue to permeate throughout our entire city. As a white man of privilege, I have to acknowledge my own role and positionality on this very important topic. We have to build in accountability as part of our government and policy-making process if we truly want to promote an anti-racist agenda. Inaction can be just as harmful as the injustice itself. Let me say that again. Inaction is just as harmful as injustice itself. That's what I know about the work that I'm doing in education. Policymakers at the city level, we have to acknowledge the realities of our unintended consequences as part of the policymaking process. We are way too quick to consider a problem resolved when we pass a new policy without any future analysis on its impact. As a general approach, we need to have that racial equity tool that we use to measure against our decision-making, both in the moment and long term.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Hi. So I have not witnessed a whole lot of what the institutional racism looks like, other than from what I've grown up with. I have not witnessed a whole lot of racism, blatant racism. What I would like to do is go through the laws we already have in place with a fine-tooth comb and figure out which ones are causing issues.
30.
Address those laws and fix them so that we can nip that in the bud at that point. And then from that point on, all the laws we make, we ensure that we are not holding anyone down and keeping them back
15.
being a part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna?
Yeah, it's got to be our history of redlining, 100%. Deciding where you get to live determines your access to transit, your access to education, your access to food, your access to clean air and water, your zip code should not be the determinant of your outcomes. And that is deeply embedded in the dirt of this city, and our infrastructure supports it. We are working to create more opportunities for inclusionary zoning across this city, which means more opportunities to childcare, to jobs, to education. We know that the children of South Park have asthma at 7 times the rate of the children in Magnolia. You should be able to breathe clean air wherever you are as a child in this city. So I think that is the #1 institution that remains, is our history of redlining and exclusionary zoning, which predicates the outcomes for people of color across this city.
Thank you. Kate?
Thank you. Yeah, so when we're talking about systemic racism, we're talking about systems. And what I ask us to do is look around for what the plantation looks like today, not what it was yesterday. So when I look around and talk about what the plantation looks like today, I think of 2 things. One of them is land ownership. The policies in place right now at the city of Seattle, where we blade and build everything and turn it over to Wall Street, and the very people that own the land no longer own it. So I would like to go back to owning land. The second area where I see intense systemic racism is in the K-12 system. 50% of the kids in our city and our state are not learning to read, write, or do math. That is why I want to fund the backpack with discretionary funding for families to make sure that their children succeed. Thank you.
And the last one on this question is Paul.
Yes. Okay, grew up in Washington, D.C., was in the civil rights movement at the age of 12 and 13 with Dr. King, was in the Black Baptist Church at the same time. I agree with King. The only way to overcome racism is personalism. We have a deep, deep systemic racism in this country that is not even being touched because people are operating on categories, not on individuals. What Brianna just said is absolutely true, the redlining. Now, I just wrote a book-length response to Derek Hamilton's contract with Black America. That's at the center. The economics is at the center, okay? And you're not gonna overcome any of this by playing with categories. It just doesn't work. You know, when you go to the census, when you do fill out a form, you gotta declare your race. Why is that? Because we live in a racist society, that's why. And Dr. King was on the right track. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Our next question, which will be directed to Councilmember Mosqueda with follow-ups opportunities from everybody. The question is, the homelessness data from 2019 to 2020 show that while 768 fewer people were sleeping on the street or in tents, occupancy of vehicles went up 28% and occupancy of abandoned buildings nearly quadrupled. Meanwhile, transitional housing and emergency shelter use rose just 10% and 0.5% respectively. What will you do to work within the regional framework and improve our approach to housing insecurity, extreme poverty, and moving people experiencing homelessness into transitional and permanent supportive housing? Starting with Councilmember Mosqueda.
Thank you for this question. This is one of the biggest issues that drives me back to want to be in City Council. What we passed last year through Jumpstart is $135 million a year to go towards building affordable housing. This is the crux. This helps get us at the root of the problem in terms of why folks continue to live outside. Folks probably know our shelters were at capacity before COVID. That means that the mats on the floor shelters, those rooms that we were using in City Hall to open up, folks were lining up at 5 p.m. and getting kicked out at 5 a.m. And it wasn't a system that worked. That was prior to COVID. The CDC recommended non-congregate shelters, which is tiny homes, hotels, making more individual spaces. That's what actually helps. But those spaces currently are at capacity as well. Earlier this year, I supported the effort to get another $12 million out the door so we could have more non-congregate shelter as the immediate solution. But what we truly need is affordable housing with those wraparound mental health services, case management services for those who need it as well. With your support, I'll go back into City Council to make sure that the $135 million that we now have dedicated for affordable housing gets built, and that we have a solution so there's light at the end of the tunnel and a place for folks to go that is not in shelter. And we must do this hand in glove with the health
15.
services, case management that we all need. I worked to make sure that those case managers had a cost of living increase, which they hadn't had in 10 years. Our our homeless service providers were eligible for the same services that their homeless clients were eligible for. That is not stability. So we must stabilize the system, get folks into housing that they need, and make sure that we don't see that high level of turnover and recurrence back into homelessness. That's what I'm committed to.
Corey, your response.
Wonderful. Yeah, we really need to take an action-oriented approach to this crisis that not only respects the dignity and rights of our neighbors without homes, but that also builds in that accountability that temporary housing structures cannot become permanent fixtures, because that is neither just or safe. We need to make this a regional priority where we employ a crisis response to first increase the access and availability of those rapid rehousing measures to provide safe alternatives to those without homes. As this immediate intervention, when we develop this has to be done without precondition such as requiring employment or being free from substance abuse. That has to be key in that rapid rehousing. Next, we then need to move our neighbors towards greater independence by educating them and giving them access to income support such as TANF, unemployment, and COVID relief. Then once we are there, we can then move towards those individual pathways of success where we wrap around services such as job training, access to healthcare, counseling, transportation, and of course, affordable housing.
Lindsay, your response.
So I was homeless here in Seattle, and the system is failing us. Trying to remember everything I was thinking about when I was looking at everything, or listening to others. I really envision the idea of a hotel where you can go and get everything you need. You have a place to be that accepts your animals that you have. My big was if we were a family, we were getting separated and we were not allowed to have our dogs with us. And there was no program out there that would accept that. We need to expand our ability to accept all those situations and not just one, which was what I faced in my experience. But a centralized place where we can all go and get all the care we need. We can have on-site everything. Thank you.
Brianna, your response.
Thank you. We know that our neighbors experiencing homelessness are humans, and a diverse array of humans at that. So when we're coming up with shelter responses, we need to ensure that we are meeting people where they are. A single Black man who's a veteran dealing with PTSD has a different set of needs than a young trans person of color when it comes to safety and security and wraparound services. They've also arrived at homelessness from different places. If you're looking at a woman who has left a domestic violence situation with her children, who still has a job to get to every day and babies to feed and attempt to educate, they need a different set of services than a single person who has been chronically homeless. We have got to customize our solutions. There are no one size fits all solutions. We've also got to make sure that we are stepping away from the moral judgment that has been infused into this conversation. People are not homeless because they are morally bankrupt. They are homeless because the system has been designed to push out the most vulnerable, and it is our job to step up to that challenge.
Kate, your response?
Yeah, again, I ask us, please let us not dance around what the actual problem is. Worldwide, the occurrence of schizophrenia and bipolar is fixed. So when all of these King County towns talk about not wanting homeless, of course, they don't want the shelter system that we've designed that works miserably, but I'm sure they want to help the people in their community, because we all have people in our families that are affected by this. The model that I have piloted at my own home
30.
works like a charm. You have family, you have friends, you have support, you have your own place to live. We could have one of these on every block and solve our problem of mental illness and substance use
15.
disorder, as well as affordable housing. We got to do things differently. We have to stop doing what does not work and get off the waterfall problem solving system. And then we can solve things. It'll be great.
Paul, your response?
Yes. A lot of studies have shown that the phenomena of homelessness is a deeper problem. There are many different aspects to it, but there is a disintegration of society, the disintegration of the bonds in society. And for many different reasons, people end up in the homeless situation. But to have them camp out in tents everywhere, where drug dealers can come, where all kinds of things can happen, it's not very merciful. They need to be into emergency transitional shelters that are the first step towards wherever path they have to take, as Brianna was saying. So that's what we need. That's what we need. We got to get people off the street. That's number one. That's the worst place for them.
Sarah, your response?
I want to make sure that I'm hitting all the components. Could you please repeat your question?
Sure. The question is, the homelessness data from 2019 to 2020 shows that while 768 fewer people were sleeping on the street or in tents, occupancy of vehicles went up 28%, occupancy of abandoned buildings nearly quadrupled, transitional housing and emergency shelter use rose 10% and 0.5% respectively. What will you do to work within the regional framework and improve our approach to housing insecurity, extreme poverty, and moving people experiencing homelessness into transitional and permanent supportive housing?
Thank you very much. Well, Brianna already took a big chunk of my allotted time by talking about the fact that the homeless population is not a monolithic block. These are individuals and we need to treat their needs. The problem is council doesn't really know what their needs are. All we can do is point to 12,000 people living unsheltered in January a year ago or so, but we don't have a good sense about those specific needs. So we have got to completely restructure our response by getting better data. You just gave us some, and drill down into what needs. I believe that substance abuse disorder is a big need. As someone in recovery, I can say that that's very important. The regional approach, it's been 2 years. I'm optimistic, but we got to do something sooner than that. And looking at what is not working is important. We've doubled the amount of money we're spending. And the problem has only gotten worse. And I'm not sure that Jumpstart is going to solve our problem until we can, sorry.
Thanks. And our final responder to this question will be Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, housing is one of the biggest commodities under capitalism, of course. There's housing going up all over Seattle. It's catered to and organized by the big developers and those who can pay the most for rent. And we've seen working people pushed out. My campaign's gone all over the region, and in visiting, smaller towns, people that have to commute and things like that to Seattle because they've been pushed out. This is an emergency situation that's worsened
30
in all the big cities around the country and in other countries. And working people deserve, and this is a working class problem, deserve comfortable, spacious house. These
15
tiny houses and hotels are better, but is not a solution. And I mean, I would propose not paying the bondholders, taking that money, appealing to the unions to organize and ask for volunteers to build housing. I think it would be tremendously popular among working people to begin to solve this problem, the social solidarity. and
Time.
dignity and the social services that are needed.
Time.
People have, thank you.
Thank you, all candidates. The next question will be, Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel. So Corey, we'll begin with Corey with this question. Excuse me. Income equality is a major issue, especially for Seattleites, and even more so in the midst of COVID-19. What policies have you supported or what would you support moving forward to promote living wage, union jobs, as well as progressive taxation and a robust safety net? Start with Corey.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Well, let me tell you, from someone who works in the education system for my entire career, I know better than a lot of people out there the regressive tax system that we have in Washington State on how we fund the services and the programs that are needed for folks. Prior to education, I grew up in a union family. My father worked for Albertsons his entire life. I worked in Albertsons myself, and I was an active member of the union, of the teachers union, before going into administration. I'm a strong proponent and supporter of affordable living wages within our region, and recognizing the cost of living is different from one city to the next. We have to be a proud supporter and an advocate, for that, for our entire communities. When we think about problem solving, again, all too often, I think that we don't always know the issue that we are trying to understand. We can't create workable solutions, unless we know where the challenges actually lie. As a city government, we need to be talking to those most impacted by creating this multiple two-way communication network to gather their advice and feedback. As I am looking to serve our students in education, I can come up with the ideas myself, but I have to go directly to the source to better understand where their needs are. As a government, we need to analyze where our feedback is coming from, and then where we see pockets of underrepresented voices, we have to go back out to them with our initiative to hear from them so we know what policies to push forward.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Hi, so this is where one of my libertarian views will be very different. I don't agree with creating any more taxes for income inequality or very many other things for that matter. What I think we need to do is educate the people that they have the power. If you don't take a job that doesn't pay well and no one takes that job, the employer will be forced to raise the wage, make it a more enticing idea to come work for them. I think we need to push more for that, more for the power is in the people's hands. And if you demand more, you will get more. And we need to really back that up.
Thank you. Brianna?
I believe, could we hear the question again? Please.
The question is, income equality is a major issue, especially for Seattleites, and even more so in the midst of COVID-19. What policies have you supported and/or what would you support moving forward to promote living wage, union jobs, as well as progressive taxation and a robust safety net?
Thank you, Chris. I'm proud to be the campaign manager for the Yes for CTAC campaign, the very first $15 minimum wage in the nation, done on the ballot with labor's support, community support, worker support, and our faith community support. And we won that by 77 votes. That's not an accident. It's a whole lot of field work, y'all. The other things I'm happy to say I've been able to support are the several rounds of attempts that we've done at employee hours tax, luckily with the success of Council Members Mosqueda's Jumpstart. And having been an inside actor on that, we've got the emotional scar tissue to point it out. One place I think that we could work harder and in better collaboration is with the state in terms of access to resources for our undocumented neighbors. They are deep in a hole in a chasm of a lack of support when it comes to unemployment insurance, resources. I'm proud of the work the city was able to do to get them direct cash infusions during COVID-19 and that crisis. But we have to remember that not everyone has the same access to opportunity, particularly our neighbors without documentation.
Thank you. Kate?
Yeah, thank you. Income equality is a huge issue, but I just want to say that in my experience, the pie is not finite. So we don't have to feel like we're fighting over little pieces. The key things that I would do to fight income equality is to, number one, build social mobility into every social safety net we have. We cannot continue with a cement boots program where you simply cannot climb your way out of a social safety net. The other thing we need to do is, I mentioned education. Of all the developed nations, we are almost at the bottom in terms of math achievement of our students. If you can't add, you're not going anywhere. Yet we are 5th highest in funding. So when the argument comes to me about more funding to solve the fact that kids are not getting educated, I rebut. I say that that is not what's happening. And taxes on jobs are never going to be a smart idea. Let's go at the problem, the source of the problem, and solve it.
Thank you. Paul?
Income inequality
Oh, are you
has been
there?
getting, income inequality has been getting worse over time because you've collapsed the middle class and you've collapsed the productive jobs. You don't have productive jobs like you had before. Now, Seattle is a perfect place to massively expand the productive jobs because we have a manufacturing base. If you can't code, you need a pathway into skills, productive skills. But if you're not going to develop, you're not going to be productive, then you basically, people are stuck living on the social system. And they're stuck at the low level. There's no opportunity, there's no way out. So you have to change the economic orientation of the city in order to be able to do this.
Eisenhower.
And that's what I'm saying. So we have this incredible potential in Seattle, but it's not being realized. And that's how you change income inequality, through jobs, through productive jobs.
Thank you. Before I call on the next speaker, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 people who have not muted. If you would be so kind as to do that, that'd be great. It tends to interrupt the flow of what the candidate's trying to say. Thank you. Sarah?
Hello. So I campaigned for the statewide income tax because of Washington's regressivity, and but I am concerned about Seattle only taxes. I agree with Kate that taxing jobs is the wrong approach, but we don't want to have another tax that's going to get caught up in the courts. So there's a better way to reach out to the private sector and bring them along. Fremont Brewing offers a matching 401k, paid family leave, healthcare for our employees and their families. And what better person to reach out and to lead and bring other small businesses along is a small business owner herself. One income inequality solution I have is Cory Booker's opportunity accounts or baby bonds. And that is legal in Washington state. And I plan to provide an account for every child born to a family with 80% AMI or lower with annual deposits. That will create a nest egg, and that will do a little bit toward reducing the wealth gap, and then jobs, again, is another key component.
Time.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Okay, it really has to do with a relationship of forces. For decades, working people have given many concessions, and the wages start from the bottom up, as we know, not from the top down. The need to build the labor movement, and like I was talking about earlier, concrete solidarity, so that working people have some victories and we begin to develop a leadership in these struggles. The fight for $15 an hour in the union was a good example. I was a member of the UFCW and a number of other unions, but and participated in that. And that was something that at first people laughed at those McDonald's workers. And then it started to spread and gain popularity. Among all kinds of layers in the airlines and healthcare workers, and that was something that was taken over by a lot of state governments, and there's a lot of benefits for the bigger companies to get out of that. But
Time,
really need some victories to turn this around and you know,
time.
benefit working people.
Thank you. And the last one is Teresa.
Thank you very much. As folks may know, I've spent my entire career working to address income inequality. And I think that that's why I'm the only candidate running for position 8 that has the endorsements from all of the unions that have endorsed so far, including Martin Luther King County Labor Council. But I've also earned the sole endorsement from the Washington Conservation Voters and Sierra Club for this race, because I think we can do both: address income inequality, put folks to work, and also address the most pressing crisis in our community, which is climate injustice along with income
30.
inequality. I have fought for good green jobs by, in my first year, passing energy efficiency standards in city buildings and including more green building standards for our housing. I've addressed additional funding for infrastructure and maintenance and made sure that our
15.
lowest wage workers had protections even prior to COVID, making sure hotel workers and domestic workers had additional protections during COVID, passing legislation to protect app-based drivers and grocery store worker hazard pay. And now, in order to get us out of this crisis more equitably, investing in childcare, doubling down on the prior investment I made in education and training, because that will be the great equalizer out of this crisis.
Thank you. Rachel?
Thank you, Chris. Our next question is going to be directed to Lindsay, and all candidates will have time to respond. The question is, describe how you would approach zoning changes in Seattle. Specifically, would you support upzoning all of Seattle? Would you support eliminating single family zoning? How would you ensure equity in zoning changes and accessible housing? Starting with Lindsay.
Yeah, so I would not support a change in zoning in that sense of single units. I live in the Magnolia neighborhood and I am so happy to be here. And I almost, maybe I'm misunderstanding the word, but I feel like it should not, the houses that we have should be more affordable. It shouldn't be, if you are low income, you have to go to an apartment. Why can't you have a single unit home? We just need to, I feel we need to open up the market for everyone, in a sense that we need to figure out how to work with landlords to lower their rates and make
45
family homes a reality for someone who is low income. The American dream should be attainable for everyone, not just the elite. And I don't think anyone's American dream, well, some people are, but not many have the American dream of living in a crowded apartment. So I would not support a whole lot of zoning. I mean, we need more apartments, yes, but I don't think we should get rid of a bunch of single unit homes in order to make that happen.
15.
I think there are other ways to approach it.
And Brianna, same question. Your response.
I absolutely support upzoning across the city, with the one exception that I will own, which is the commitment I've already made to the longshoremen to work with them to protect maritime and industrial lands. You know, on campaign, you make promises, you got to keep them. I do think that our zoning laws currently do concentrate folks into corridors of underservice, and that's because folks who live in single family zones haven't had to participate in upzones in a meaningful way. Now, one thing I want to be clear about is upzones doesn't necessarily mean giant towers coming in full of studios with beautiful
30.
countertops. I like a marble countertop as much as the next girl, but we need workforce housing. We need 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. We need intergenerational housing. We need places for people who have a doddering auntie who never got married to live and move in and help out. You know, I think that that's how we need to create housing infrastructure and modify what the housing stock currently looks like. But yeah, this is a conversation for the entire city, not just a few select neighborhoods.
Kate, your response, same question.
Thank you. You always have to be careful with the word upzone because it almost always means just opening up the floodgates for Wall Street. And I am trained as a landscape architect and I was a classical urbanist, but at this point I call it disturbanism because we're actually just displacing people at amazing rates. I do think we can make one really important change to single family zoning and rebrand it as sustainable families and groups. I am living that reality in the model that I built. I bought a Rambler back when I was a waitress in the 80s. I rebuilt it to be really functional shared housing. And 9 of us are living here very comfortably, very affordably. We still have room for gardens. We still have an awesome neighborhood feeling. So I think we have to really consider sustainable families and groups. And I think we have to measure and grow homeownership across many, many income levels, because this whole, again, the Wall Street corporate ownership of all our homes and renting them back to us does not work for me, and it does not work for the people in Seattle.
Paul, same question, your response.
Okay. I would need to take a good look at all of the zoning laws and all of the city, et cetera. But I can attest to this, that real estate speculation has been the major driver for zoning and for everything, not the needs of the people. And I'm sympathetic to what Brianna said, but I need to do a lot more research. Also, it should be done from the standpoint of the entire city
30.
and its infrastructure. That is how are people going to move around and so forth. There should be a total city approach rather than allowing the real estate speculators and their operations,
15.
which have been the basis of everything. The suburbs, you know, the ghettos, everything's been driven by real estate speculation.
Sarah, your response, same question.
All right. So yes, ditto what Brianna said and others. So remember the HALA process? Well, the mandatory housing affordability component of that got all the press, but there were 56 other recommendations for housing affordability and zoning changes in there. And I think we should go back to that list. And in principle, yes, rezoning or eliminating single family zones could be an end goal, but
30.
let's start with infill. Now, if anybody wants to know of a program that just passed in Portland that really worked, that Alan Durning at Sightline has been talking to me about, is Portland's residential infill program. Go
15.
check that out, because that creates missing middle. It facilitates the creation of different kinds of housing models within the single family zones that will sell better right off the bat, create more affordable options, and then we can start chipping away as we go.
5.
So, but yes, we can't have all the rich people taking all the
5.
land in this town.
Rebecca, your response, same question.
Okay. Well, this is obviously related as well to the homelessness question we're talking about. No one should lose their home or apartment because they can't afford to pay the rent. It's these big housing developers. You know, I live in a corporate-owned apartment complex that, you know, I see it every day. It's the banks and the developers profit. I don't think this is going to be solved in Seattle. I don't think it's a policy question. I don't think it's a zone. I do think we do
30.
need more housing. This is something that needs to be solved nationally. The housing stock should be nationalized, and people shouldn't live on the streets. If they've done it in Cuba 60 years ago,
15.
and they don't have homelessness there, and the most you pay is 10% of your income, why can't we do it here? It's based on their income. Thank you.
Councilmember Mosqueda, same question, your response.
Thank you so much. So when we talk about creating more affordable housing throughout our city by addressing single family zones, I want folks to remember that we've actually over the last 4 or 5 decades shrunk the area in Seattle. We've effectively downzoned over the past 40 to 50 years in areas that could have been building more apartments, more duplexes, triplexes, and multifamily structures like the one that Kate talked about. You know, what we have instead is an area that's been shrunk, so only development can occur in these tiny zones. Rezoning Seattle's single family zone to be residential
30.
zoning actually means going back to the fabric of what our city used to be. From Queen Anne to Magnolia to West Seattle here There's beautiful homes that have 3 and 4 doors as entrances. I want more quads, more triplexes, more duplexes. I also want those apartment buildings, but I want more
15.
first-time home buyer opportunities. When we rezone our city, excluding some of the industrial lands, when we rezone our city to allow for both gentle infill, addressing building for the missing middle, and allow for residential zoning across our city, it will be more affordable, it will be more accessible, and more folks will have access to high opportunity zones like childcare,
Time.
schools, and grocery stores.
Okay, next question goes to Chris. Take it away, Chris. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Hang on. We still need to hear from Corey Eichner. I apologize, Corey. Please do take your full time to respond to this question.
Completely okay. Thank you so much. I actually, yeah, I do not support broad upzoning, for the city as a response to our housing challenges. I understand where that is coming from, but again, this is a singular response and doesn't take into consideration long-term planning or the additional challenges, the infrastructure problems we face in this city. We have to be systematic with this. We should be considering this concept of density planning and the direct access to public resources.
30.
So instead of this broad rezoning, we should be thinking in a more transformative way and utilize our mass transit as our guide. We should be developing with intentionality around these access points along our current and what will be our future transit lines to give ways to jobs and
15.
schools, parks, and public resources. We've got to work together. We shouldn't be looking at this from individualized development, but instead work together with our schools and healthcare, public safety, and businesses to be thoughtful on how we get greater affordable access to our entire city through density planning and not
Time.
broad rezoning.
Okay, Chris, now it's all yours.
Thank you, Rachel. There have been so many questions, so many great responses, and we weren't able to get to all of the planned questions we had, let alone the great questions from the audience. We need to move on to closing statements. So I want to apologize for that, but certainly move on to closing statements, and in which each candidate will get 2 minutes on their closing statement. So we'll begin with Brianna.
Oh, lucky me.
Well,
Oh, it is me. Okay,
Oh.
sorry about that. Rachel,
Continue. Yes.
yeah, but this is our next question, though. Or we're not going to closing statements right away.
We're going to closing statements because we ended one and we have it with 2 minutes each. We will just barely make the mark.
Okay.
We're going to stay on track and close at the same time that we predicted we would close. We're not going to
Yes.
take us over by 15 to 20 minutes. So we will move forward with the closing statements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna, please go. Please move forward.
thank you. Okay, thank you again, 34th, for having us. This was a good one, right? It was moving quick. I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you all put into putting this together. I appreciate that you want to look at a computer screen on a Saturday afternoon as spring is upon us. I've been a member here at the 34th since 2008. That's the first time I got really Democratic, and that's Barack Obama brought me out. Since then, I have been a PCO. I have led our very last caucus, which, as some of you may remember, was a little bit heated. I have walked neighborhoods. I have knocked doors. I have managed campaigns. I worked with Honest Elections and community leaders to bring us the Democracy Voucher Program, which has really opened the door on who gets to run for office and who gets to support the candidates that they believe in. You don't have to have deep pockets to run anymore. And that's because the voters of Seattle supported that program and voted with their values. I'm running for Seattle City Council this year because I've done it before. Some of you saw me the last time I ran, and that time I don't know if I knew what job I was applying for, to be quite honest. Thank you. I know what job I'm applying for now, and I hope to continue to have your support. And I hope that if I win this race, you keep me accountable, because I know you all know where to find me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kate?
Thank you. As I said, I have the long view. I've been paying attention for 30 years. I have been involved for the last 20, at one end of the city to the other as serving on committees, councils, as a volunteer. And I have some observations that I make, and I'd like to apply them to the problem-solving process. Again, I'm looking to solve the problems, define the problems at the very beginning. What is the problem? And bring my policy and planning skills to the table to actually solve them and prevent them from happening in the first place. I bring diversity of thought, I bring democracy of the intentions of our district system, and I bring my 63 years of lived experience, both out there in the world and right in my own household, to the table to bring solutions that will work for us. I have to say that if we do not put youth first, we're nowhere. So let's go back and get the kids the
60
education
seconds.
they need and the funding that they need to do their activities and move their lives forward. And a lot of other things will fall in place. Thank you very much for having us today. I really enjoyed the format of this forum, and I enjoyed listening to everyone's answers. So thank you.
Chris, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if I could just insert a comment here for everybody. Candidates, before you leave right now, could you please put your contact information into the chat? And we have some questions that we weren't able to ask or answer. And so I would like to offer that the candidates put their contact information, and anyone who's on this Zoom event, please feel free to check out the chat and contact any candidates that you would like to direct some of your questions to after this event. I just wanted to put that in there so that folks can contact candidates directly if they want to. Thank you, and on we go.
Paul, please move forward with your closing statement.
Okay. My journey into this campaign began a few years ago. In my neighborhood, I saw these young people, and they were agitated, and they were clearly on some kind of drug like meth. And these were young people whose lives were being destroyed. And it really disturbed me in the most deepest way. And I began to see more and more and more of that in the city. And we're destroying ourselves. We're destroying our future. And I've been to all the neighborhoods, a lot of the neighborhoods, talking to small businesses and going door to door. And they see the same thing. And something has to be done. And I believe that public safety is a primary first baseline for dealing with all of this. You can't just shut down your public safety system. You can't do that. So I'm very disturbed by what I've been seeing. And if this continues, we're not going to have a city. So that's why I'm running. And that's why I'm going to take it on. And I'm not going to be disturbed I'm not going to be stopped. I'm not going to, I'm going to take it on. That's what I'm doing.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thanks, y'all, for a great meeting. So I don't need to tell you that we're going through tough times, all right? We all have our personal struggle. And so here I am trying to end on a positive note. With crisis brings opportunity. And we do have a chance for a major reset in this town politically. And it starts with electing candidates who will deliver, measurable results, who will be accountable and keep promises. And I want to return to that question about, well, what would you do different than the current council? Because that was an interesting way of putting it. And what I would say is, if you like the way the city's going right now, I'm probably not your candidate. I want to get away from the fighting around, should we sweep, should we not sweep? What kind of housing, all these things. We've got big problems, but we need a practical hand at the wheel. And that's why I'm running. And that's why I'm asking for your support. I've never ended
Rebecca?
before the time.
Hey, that was just under 60 seconds.
Rebecca?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I very much like to thank you all for hosting this forum. We need more of these, more access, you know, for people over to hear a different point of view. And actually, there's a lot of restrictions that Democratic and Republican parties in many states that they're trying to put on access to the ballot. Oh, I didn't mention, by the way, we're just certified on the ballot for city council and for mayor this week. So I appreciate that very much. And we're dealing with some of the biggest social questions that we face here just in this forum today. And just to reiterate, I would use the office to help promote all the struggles that help strengthen and build the self-confidence of workers and farmers, our allies, you know, small business people, youth, and to confront. That's what we need is to look towards building not just the unions and a working class party that can help mobilize those of us that create all the wealth and do all the services, but to build mass organizations to begin to confront these problems. We're a small government socialist, and I'm part of a slate nationally. I would also like to speak out against the anti-Semitic, the Jew hatred actions that took place at Westlake a few days ago. And we stand for recognition of Palestinian state as well as of Israel. I know it's not just a Seattle question, but it's a big question in our city. And I would refer you to the Militant newspaper and Pathfinder books. We have a campaign office here in Georgetown. You're welcome to visit. Just give us a call since we work. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Mosqueda.
Thank you once again for having me. I really appreciate getting to see some of the faces from the 34th and look forward to the chance to be able to see you in person one day. Until then, please continue to mask up, and I know and continue to encourage all of our friends to get vaccinated so we can all see each other in person soon. I wanted to reiterate why I'm called to run for office again. I see this as the response to the crisis, the public health crises that are facing our communities, both in terms of how we respond to this pandemic that's affected so many in terms of lost lives and lost livelihoods, and the continuing public health crises of the lack of access to affordable housing and our rising numbers of folks who are living homeless in the streets of Seattle. We can address these dual public health crises together. We can address them by continuing to invest in affordable housing and interim emergency shelter services. We can do this by making sure that there's more good living wage union jobs out there, along with support for small business. We know that we cannot go back to the way that things were before, prior to COVID. This isn't a returning back to the status of income inequality that we had before. This is a chance for a true reset. I am running for Seattle City Council, position 8, to seek re-election so that I can meet this moment with the urgency and with the fierceness needed to ensure that we can recover equitably and stronger than ever. I know that our city is at a crossroads. I am hoping that you will continue to support me. I am a problem solver, a progressive, committed to collaborative action, who has delivered and kept my promises. And with your support, I will continue to do more to invest in our smallest businesses, our workers, affordable housing, and making sure that we address the climate crisis. We've done this through some investments with Green New Deal and Jumpstart. We can do more, and we can do both investments in our environmental injustice crisis and our income inequality crisis.
15.
Really appreciate the past support from the 34th. I hope that you will continue to support me in this effort so that we can come back and work together to address these multiple public health crises together. Thanks for so much for your time and for all of the work that you do as PCOs. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Corey?
Wonderful. Thank you so much to the 34th, our moderators, and of course the audience who are here today. Yeah, I'm running for city council because we need new leadership to not only address the ongoing challenges we face, but who are also going to be attuned and forward thinking to advance our city as it grows. You know, in the next 20 years, we're expected to see 120,000 new residents with the addition of about 115,000 jobs. How we welcome this new growth all depends on what we do now. As I share the stage with these fine folks, I'm not afraid to say, look, I am new to Seattle politics, and it is clear that I am not as polished and that I don't come with answers to everything. But the thing is this, I think that's what we need right now. Problem solving isn't a one-person job. I don't stand here with only one way to get something done, but I do stand here understanding the immediacy of our challenges and a track record in education of acting on the immediacy with practical solutions.
60 seconds.
I'm here to work with you, our leaders, our activists, our businesses, our entire community to bring forward solutions to the challenges our city faces, to advance reform across our system to address the inequities that exist, to bring forward support and services to our neighbors without homes in a dignified manner, and hold accountable that it is not just or safe for temporary housing structures to be permanent, to push a new infrastructure that fully supports
30.
adequate access to affordable housing, a comprehensive regional transit system, and a full plan to combat climate change. As a public school educator of 18 years, I have committed my entire career to investing into the future of our kids.
15.
And I ask you to join me today in investing in our city. I am still fighting for our kids every single day, and I hope to get your support as we move this campaign forward. Thank you so much. My contact information is in the chat. It's been a pleasure today. And thank you to all the candidates. I've enjoyed interacting with you.
Thank you. And Lindsay.
Yes, I just want to say thank you guys so much for inviting me, even though I'm not a Democrat and I'm not looking for the endorsement. I still appreciate the 34th incredibly for inviting me in the first place. You were the first that has been in the Democratic Party that has invited me, even though I'm not a Democrat. So thank you so much. I really appreciate feeling included. And also thank you for listening to my opposing views. I know that they do not always agree or line up. So thank you for listening to that. As a woman, I don't think that really, sets me apart, especially in this race. But I think having my experience in the military and my experience going through the VA, I'm a
60 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have a minute left.
Sorry. So yeah, just as a disabled veteran, I live with PTSD, anxiety, depression. I have been homeless. Like I said, I've been through the systems. I am a small business owner. A very small business. I'm the only employee.
30.
I want to help the people get what they need. If you want to hear more of what I have to say, even if you don't intend to vote for me, you can look for me on YouTube, Twitter. I have a private Facebook group. You can feel free to join. It's all Lindsay McCaffey or Lindsay McCaffey for Seattle City Council 2021. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm going to turn this over to our chair for closing remarks.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Rachel. Well, the perfect end of this this forum today was that as soon as I began to unmute myself to talk, my dog started barking. So here we are. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for the issues at the start of the forum. We do thank you, all the candidates, for your time today and wish you the best of luck in your campaigns. I'd also like to invite our audience to log out, go get some lunch, enjoy the day, but then don't forget to come back at 3 o'clock for our King County Executive Forum. And I've placed the link in the chat there. It is actually the link that was provided for this one. So it should be handy. Again, apologize for that. Totally my fault. Don't hold it against us. We are all volunteers and doing the best we can. Again, thanks everyone and have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate your work.
Thank you very much. This was a good one. It really was. Thank you for the good questions. Bye.
Thank you guys too.